Okay, hello everybody. I'm recording this, so I hope it will work. I'm afraid I won't be able to probably be with you on the 18th of June. I'm having surgery 2 weeks prior to that, and I'm not sure what state I'll be in. So let me try to share this PowerPoint. Okay, and we'll do a slideshow. I can't see the slideshow. Okay, from the beginning. All right, so I've been asked, or I actually nominated to speak on Lament Psalms because it's something I feel quite strongly about. So, as you probably know, Laments is one of the main genres of poetry and the most frequent in the book of Psalms. I think this depends on how people classify, but I think someone said there's something like 73 Psalms that are considered laments. Laments has four distinguishing features, and all must be present if a psalm is to be classified as a lament, according to Walter Brueggemann. Sorry why I'm losing my voice. The first one is the address of the psalm is to God, and this is really important. It's not a complaint as the Israelites were doing in the wilderness, complaining to Moses or complaining to each other. This is bringing the complaint to God. It's actually an act of faith, trusting that because God is my covenant partner, He is the one that I can bring whatever I've got in my heart, including complaint. The second aspect, or the distinguishing feature of a lament psalm, is it must include complaints. It's not enough to just be request. It must be complaint if it's going to be a lament, and the complaint may be either against enemies or against God. Thirdly, it involves request, includes requests, and these are often just requests for help or salvation or Lord, get me out of this trouble or whatever. But it may also include a request for justice. And this obviously is only in laments against enemies. And we will see that in Psalm 3. And it's a very important element of a lament, and one that I have found to be very powerful in helping people who've been through trauma. I'll go through that briefly. And then the fourth element, the fourth distinguishing feature of a lament psalm, it includes some affirmation of faith, some aspect of confidence in God, remembering His former provision or making a statement of faith, I will sing to the Lord. Psalm 88, which is considered to be the most extreme lament, and it ends with the words, my only friend is darkness. It ends very negatively, unlike any other psalm. And yet the psalm begins with the word Yahweh. It begins by saying, you are my covenant partner, and that's why I'm talking to you. So the word of address is almost always Yahweh. So the underlying feature of lament is that it is based on the covenant relationship. And this is essential to remember. So lament is a sign of faith in God, in the reality of the covenant with God. If the psalmist thought God's not going to bother to listen, he wouldn't bother to pray. He wouldn't bring all that complaint to God, but he knows that he has a faithful covenant partner. And so, although some people think laments is bad and a good Christian shouldn't lament, it's actually a sign of maturity in one's faith. When you're so secure in your relationship with the Lord that you can bring a complaint and know that He will get involved. So, with regard to the justice element, I've done quite a lot of work in trauma theory and working with people who've been through trauma. And we note that abused people carry a burden, the sense that what was done to me is not right and justice must be done. And I can't rest until justice has been done. However, if they can hand over to God responsibility for ensuring that justice is in fact done, then the complainant is set free. And I've found this to be a very powerful tool based on Psalms, and I particularly use Psalm 3 to do what I call Lament workshops. And I'm just mentioning this to you because it's something very simple, it's very biblical, and it can help people get free from some burden, some injustice that was done against them. So, firstly, what problem is worrying you? They need to be able to say, my boss fired me from my job. Or, God, I've been praying for my family for 50 years and you're not doing anything. Whoever it is that's causing the pain, you need to be able to state that. And then the request. What do you want God to do? And it might be just help me, encourage me, help me to keep going when life is so hard. But the third question says, what do you want God to do to the person who caused you pain? And this is the justice element. So when I've worked with women who have been raped, abused in various ways, or like this woman who lost her job, the way she answered this question was, I want my boss to experience the pain that I felt when he fired me just because I fell pregnant. She wanted to know that that pain that she had been through, he would also experience. Now, this is not cursing. This is saying, Lord, I'm in pain. Please take this pain and you deal with the person. You know how to deal with that person. You know whether to actually do something or speak to them or whatever, but you will do the right thing. So I no longer am burdened with this sense justice must be done. I've handed it over to God. I know God will sort it out. And then fourthly, what confidence do you have that God might answer your prayer? So this might be, what do you know about God's character, who he is? How have you experienced God answering prayer before or answering the prayers of others before? What makes you think that God might answer your prayer? So I just encourage you, if you are working with one or perhaps a handful of people who are going through trauma, you can try doing this. It's totally biblically based. You're bringing to God your complaints, your requests, including justice, and you're affirming your faith in God, your trust that he will do something. All right, looking at some examples of biblical laments. First, we'll look at Psalm 13, 6 verses. And this is one of the Psalms we do in our first 2-week workshops that we've been doing. How long, Lord, will you continue to ignore me? How long will you pay no attention to me? How long must I worry and suffer in broad daylight? How long will my enemy gloat over me? All right, clearly, we have the first 2 requirements of a lament. It's addressed to the Lord, right in the very first line. And we have complaint, 4 complaints in parallel. And his complaint is with whom? Obviously, he's complaining that the Lord is not doing anything. Look at me, answer me. Sorry, I can't read it properly, so I'm guessing. I've got all these things from the internet in the way. Look at me, answer me, revive me. There's 3 requests. Or else I will die, and if I die, my enemy will say, I have defeated him. And then my foes will rejoice because I'm upended or because I'm defeated. Notice the use of direct speech, which often happens in lament prayers. Direct speech is a poetic device which makes the hurt, the sting of the enemy much worse. The enemy is saying, I have defeated him. And you can hear that jeering tone coming through. So we've had the request, and he hasn't requested anything about the enemy, because his problem really, as we saw in the first part, was, Lord, why are you ignoring me? Why are you not acting? And the enemy is only mentioned as, if I die, if you don't do anything, then this is what's going to happen. I'll die and my enemy will gloat over me. But he's not actually complaining about the enemy. The enemy just comes in as one of the repercussions if God doesn't act. And then comes his word of affirmation in verses 5 and 6, his confidence in God. But I trust in your faithfulness, and may I rejoice because of your deliverance. I will sing praises to the Lord when he vindicates me. There's an element of trust. I will future sing praise because he is going to vindicate me and he is going to deliver me. So we see there in Psalm 13 the four elements of lament. Now let's just have a look at, okay, do you see those four characteristics there? Address to God, complaint, request, and assurance of faith. Yes, we've just been through those. So let's have a look now at Psalm 3 and notice how it is different in its complaint. First of all, we're given a superscription, a Psalm of David, written when he fled from his son Absalom. So perhaps this is not a complaint against God, but about Absalom. Let's have a look. Lord, all right, we've got the address to God in the very first word. How numerous are my enemies? Many attack me. Many say about me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield that protects me. You are my glory and the one who restores me. So we have the address to God. We have the complaints about the enemies. There's so many and they're attacking me and they're saying ugly things. Notice again the use of direct speech as a poetic device to intensify the pain that he's experiencing. And then verse 3, a sudden change of mood. But you, Lord, are a shield. You're my glory. You're the lifter of my head. Something's happened between verse 2 and 3. He's been reminded of who God is to him. And so here we see which attributes of a lament? We're seeing the confidence, the affirmation of faith. So they don't always follow the order that I gave you the four. A lament often has a mix of emotions. One minute it's thanksgiving, and then it's complaint, and then it's praise, and then it's request. It's all muddled up because emotionally the person is in such turmoil. Verse 4, to the Lord I cried out, and he answered me. So he's saying what happened. I rested, I slept, I awoke, for the Lord protects me. Again, an affirmation of faith. I'm not afraid of the multitude. So once again in verse 7, he's requesting, rise up, Lord, deliver me, my God. An affirmation again. And then verse 7 continues, yes, rise up and strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. Okay, it's a request, but it's relative to the enemies. He's asking God to punish the enemies. Why these kind of punishments? Strike them on the jaw, break their teeth. It's very interesting if we look back to the complaint in verse 2. They are saying, God will not deliver him. They're speaking evil. They're using their jaws and their teeth to speak evil. And not only evil about the psalmist, but they are actually blaspheming God. They're saying that God will not deliver his servant. God will not deliver David, his anointed king. So that's a a statement of blasphemy. God doesn't care, or God doesn't have the power. So because of that, he's asking the Lord to break their teeth, break their jaws, so that they can't carry on speaking blasphemy and speaking evil of me. So there's the justice element, the request for God to act and bring justice. And then verse 8 again, the Lord delivers. You show favor to your people. So once again, which of those elements do we have that indicate it's a lament? We have an affirmation of faith. So there we have it. Feel free to discuss this topic. And I think I've taken about 15 minutes, hopefully, maybe more. But I hope you'll have time to discuss it. Thank you. I'm going to stop the share and stop the record, if I can do that. Stop the share. And how do I stop the record? Uh, hmm. It's a bit of time since I've done that. So let's see if I've done it properly. Stop